Today, our nation saw evil, the very worst of human nature. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil. Moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. None of us will ever forget this day. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world. Yet we go forward in all that is good and just in our world.
So my name is Emma Redmond. I'm from Long Island, New York.
Carlos Ariola. My hometown is El Paso, Texas.
Kai Gill, Huntington Beach, California.
I'm Trevor Rosenlicht. I'm from Long Island, New York.
My name is Cadet Staff Sergeant Maximilian Buck. I'm from Carl Place, New York, a very small town on Long Island.
On the morning of 9/11, it was like any other day.
My dad has worked for the NYPD for the majority of my life. On that day, my dad was home with my brother. He got the call that a plane headed into one of the towers. And at first he thought it was a small passenger plane, but then he turned on the news and realized exactly what had happened.
My aunt, she's been very instrumental in my life, kind of just being a second mother for me. It was a beautiful day, and she had to take her daughter as a single mother to school that morning. She arrives, comes out of the subway tunnel in downtown New York City at 8:50. She looks up at her building, hears a loud bang, and sees a bunch of smoke plummeting out of the building.
I was born on 9/11/2000. While I was celebrating my first birthday, my parents received a phone call from my grandmother telling them to turn on the TV. And when they turned it on, the second tower was already hit.
I was 5 years old when the events happened. I remember being with my grandmother, and I remember seeing her scared, and I had never seen anyone that scared before, but that really stuck out to me, and I carried that for the rest of my life.
In a state of complete shock, awe, she notices where the smoke is coming out of her building from. She worked on the 101st floor, and unfortunately in World Trade Center 1, that was right where the plane impacted the building. At that moment, she realized that her coworkers, her friends, people that she'd referred to as family, could potentially be losing their lives.
So he rushed into work immediately, and he was there for months. He was assigned to what was called the Bucket Brigade. So he was searching through rubble, trying to find any signs of life day in and day out.
My father's is and was a New York City firefighter. He was at his firehouse in Brooklyn, and that day they were right into 9/11 for the next 3 months. He worked a whole lot on rescue and unfortunately recovery, which is a rough thing for me to say. I can't imagine what that did to him.
And it was really difficult for him to have to go through and see that destruction to the city he loved and just watch as the day went on and the signs of life diminished in the rubble.
We hear these stories about firemen and police officers sleeping in the churches and doing what they could all the time for 3 months straight, and that's exactly what he was doing.
Why was it important? Why does it matter? I soon realized the value of service, of sacrifice, and of courage as countless men, firefighters, charged into the building knowing that they may never come back.
And then as the memorials were built up in the city, with the Freedom Tower being erected, it was a very emotional moment for my dad to be back at Ground Zero and see the place that had been covered in rubble, and now it was this beautiful memorial. And the thing that meant the most to me was that he didn't give up on his city after this had happened. I realized that's what selfless service meant, and so when I was looking at colleges and what I wanted to do with my life, I looked at the academy and I saw the core values, and the one that really spoke out to me was service before self, and that's what my dad embodied my whole life, so it really just made the most sense to come here.
I'm a prior enlisted member, so I served from 2016 to 2018. I deployed to Afghanistan, so that's kind of where my story kind of comes full circle, I guess. Because growing up, I never really thought about the events that happened. I knew a lot of people were grieving and we had a lot of loss, but I never really understood it growing up until I got to Afghanistan and I realized what we were fighting for, essentially, and I was fully supporting the Air Force mission. And eventually it led me to come to the Air Force Academy because I realized that what we were fighting for was worth fighting for.
On every 9/11, every New Yorker kind of comes together to remember the lives. Typically, in any school classroom from kindergarten to 12th grade, they'll go around the room, ask if you know any family members who was involved in 9/11. I was always proud to share my aunt's story, never forgetting about that day and the lives that were lost that day. On top of that, and being able to mentally overcome that and support her daughter, she's also a survivor of breast cancer, and thanks to that, it's provided me great motivation to want to serve here and join the United States Air Force.
My dad originally actually wanted to come here, and for one reason or another, he didn't end up here. And when I realized that this was an option for me, I thought back to 9/11 and my dad. 9/11 caused a lot of loss, both physical and emotional, and it impacted my early childhood. My dad dealt with a lot of mental recovery that needed to take place. It was a struggle in the beginning, and I saw what that did to other families of other friends that I had, where people just couldn't quite make it through what they saw, what they had to do, and it could tear families apart. Luckily, my dad is the strongest person I know, and you know, he made sure he put in the work and he did what he was supposed to do, and we got stronger because of it. But seeing what it did to other families and seeing what it could have done to mine, it made me want to make sure that that never happened again.
People came together from this moment. People changed their attitudes, changed their mentality, changed their nationalistic pride.
The amount of lives that have been touched by that day weren't only that specific day. There's still people fighting cancer from that event. There's still people suffering mentally from loved ones who are lost. There's still people who are growing up without a mom, without a dad.
Don't learn about it like it's something in a textbook. It's something that affects people to this day and will affect people for the rest of these next generations. So I really would hope that people engage about it and talk about it.
Keep the story alive, because even though it was something extremely painful, it's something that's necessary to remember, because it was such a painful moment in our past, and it inspired a change in our military action and a change in our lifestyle.
It is necessary to reflect and learn.